So today we're going to try some welding. Now this is not for the welding experts, this is for amateurs like me, because you welding experts will probably laugh or faint or send a letter off to the ACCC or something to complain. So let's give it a shot. I can hear that. Can you hear that plover? Look, a little while back her eggs hatched and the little chicks appeared. I'll show you those. And soon after, the plovers take off. And I guess it's because they go and seek shelter somewhere or other. Anyway, I can hear her, or him. Here we go. Which suggests that somewhere nearby is a little chick. I'm not going to go and look for it, that'll freak her out, and they hunker down, so I don't want to tread on the damn silly thing either. So let's get stuck in and do something else, and that's that welding. First things first, we'll just clean this up because it's been sitting out in the weather for a couple of days. Remembering that that bar goes in here behind this one, but we also don't want it to coincide with those, so we'll put the brackets as wide as possible on the other one, which means that it will be at let's say 54 here and 6 there, so that's about well, let's get the old one and see where it was actually. That might be an idea. So it almost coincided with them, to be honest, just inside them. There it is there, and there's that. So let's just do that. We'll do them 10 in. Luckily there's an instruction manual to tell you how to put it on. Here's my understanding of it. This is the, I assume, the positive lead. And the negative lead for clamping, assuming it's negative earthed. But this for the wire feed. Let's take a moment to take a look at the instructions just to see how you load the wire. Let's just play it by ear. This is the spool for the wire, and it has to load through here, feed through there, and come out here. Let's set this up and see if we can get that happening. So this is 8mm, and this in here is 8. It's probably something that warned you about doing that, but we didn't care. Professionals don't do this. But we amateurs do. Now that ought to feed, if I'm not mistaken. I'll put this back on. Plug her in. And if I'm not mistaken, take off this tip and remove this here. Turn her on, and this should feed, and indeed it is. There we go. Put this back on. I hope you're watching this, because put this back on. Put this back on. And then snip that off. So we're ready to go. So it's not exactly tacked, but it's good enough for now to get us started. The problem I think is that doing it here in the daylight or the sunlight like this, the contrast is such that I actually can't see anything until I start to weld. Anyway, let's persevere. So let's flick it off, go and get a wire brush. It's a pretty horrible job. So take a look at that. It's pretty awful. But does it matter? Well, it probably does if it was on show, but for what we're doing here, this is probably good enough. Now I'm going to do a bit more, but you also want to stick the other one on not exactly straight either. It's good enough for me though, for this job. Let's tack the other one on here, hey? For the first time, it's pretty horrible. It'll actually grind back okay. I do need to fill in some there. And in a couple of other spots. So why don't we do that? We'll grind it back, and then we'll see where the gaps are. first time job it's horrible, but for a first time job it's actually not bad. It's strong enough, but clearly a fair amount of practice is needed, and part of that seems to be getting the speed of the wire feed correct. So I might do a bit of reading up on that and just see what it is that I might need to do. Meantime though, I'm going to just chuck a coat of paint on this and then call it a day at that. Most of this will be hidden. It really won't be visible. So I'll just head back up to the shed and we'll take a look at that that bar that I've done the welding on, and I'll just talk through a couple of the things that I learned, not only while doing it but afterwards, having a look at a couple of YouTube vids, you know, which are a wonderful storehouse of knowledge, as you know. So here it is, complete, and you can tell. I'll just hold that there for a minute so you can have a look at it close up. This one here though, and then this one. The welding is pretty terrible, but I'm not that concerned, given that I'm just gonna, I mean, it's good and strong, or at least I hope so. It'd be funny if I did this and it broke off. Blobby with gaps. And anyway, look, one thing that I thought was that there's a knob on the welder, and I'll see if I can find you a picture of that, and I assumed it was something to do with the wire speed, but it's not. It's actually material thickness. Now the difficulty here though, of course, is that we've got two different thicknesses. So this one here, which is so thick, and then the bar that we're welding it to, which is less thick. So which one do you choose? My thinking is that you choose somewhere in between, but ultimately what you've got to do is get enough heat into it to melt the wire to bond to the materials without burning through. There's a big risk of that if you are welding to a thinner material at a higher temperature. So getting the thickness of the material right is the first thing, but the second thing is that you would have noticed that I kind of just ran quite quickly across it and tended to jump back and forth a fair bit while I was doing it, and that's not the way to do it at all. The way to do it is to either push or drag. Push if you're using gas, and drag if you're not. Drag slowly, filling it in as you go, and with the appropriate heat and the appropriate wire speed. And I think that on those machines, that if you choose the thickness of the material, it adjusts both the heat or voltage, heat and wire speed. More of that maybe in the next one, but for now let's call it quits at that. I think we're going to get another few days of rain. I believe it's forecast, so I may not be able to do any more welding for a while, but I can always carry on and do I can always carry on and finish off this in the next video. Thanks for watching.